Next question. Are you willing to share some details regarding your finances so that those of us considering relocating can know how feasible that is economically? Even if you could just offer some general cost comparisons, that would be helpful. I do want to mention before we start that on my FAQ page on the Aspiring Expats blog, there is a chart that you can use where you can put in the city that you live in and compare it to living here, and it will give you a pretty good cost analysis of, you know, how much you're going to be saving or whatever.
This is a question that you can go on and talk about ad infinitum forever. So
Right.
I'm not going to really talk about everything there is. I'm just going to touch on just maybe a couple of points.
Okay.
One of them is rent. I would say you can rent something from $300 and up with a big proviso, okay? If you want to get U.S. type housing, I would say it starts probably at about $600. And you really shouldn't have to pay more than $1,000 a month. But of course, sky is the limit here just like anywhere else. So it just depends upon what kind of housing you want and what you can afford to pay as far as how much your rent is going to cost. And is there a savings? Well, that's probably going to be dependent upon where you're coming from in the United States. If you're coming from a U.S. metro area like Chicago or Los Angeles or San Francisco or New York or even Atlanta or Miami, then you're probably going to see a substantial savings in your rent. On the other hand, if you're coming from a small town in Texas or Arkansas or someplace in Montana, you're probably not going to see that much difference in your rent. So it's situational depending upon what kind of accommodations you want here in Costa Rica and where you're coming from in the United States. The final thing I'll say as far as rent is concerned is you can find very inexpensive rent here, but it comes with a sacrifice. The sacrifice is the type of housing that you're going to get. The housing stock here has been around for as long as Costa Rica has been here. Of course, it gets rebuilt over the years, but we have certain ways that we do things, and this is not the United States. They have certain ways that they do things, and they're different from the United States. And so, the lower price housing is going to be the way Costa Ricans build a house, not the way someone from North America would be accustomed to in all circumstances, and may not be something that someone from the U.S. would really want. But, so you have to consider that. But you can definitely get really good bargains on rent, but you're going to have to really change your ideas about what you want in a house, what's acceptable in a house, because it's different. That doesn't make it better or worse, it just makes it different.
And I'd like to add to that, it has been said before we got here, and I think this is pretty much true. Although we haven't done a monthly cost analysis for how much it costs us each month. I do think that you can live as a couple in Costa Rica in most of the areas, except maybe not in places like Escazú, maybe not in Paco Beach, tourist towns or whatever, for about $2,000 a month for a couple. I do believe that that's possible. We haven't been keeping track, and we've been doing a lot of traveling and buying things, so I can't say what our budget is, but I think you can live for about $2,000 a month. Do you think I can find an affordable, safe, American-style apartment with 3 bedrooms, 2 baths in the Gracia area for $700 to $800 a month? I would say yes and no.
I would say yes, and then I would say no.
No, you would say no and then yes.
So
I said yes and then no.
So what do you want to know? I didn't say no, I said no. I said yes and no.
Oh, and no.
K-N-O-W.
K and no. Oh, yes and no. Oh, that's good.
Okay, because here's the thing, knock a bedroom off.
Yes.
2 bedroom, 2 baths, but really, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, definitely, without any question. When you get to 3 bedrooms, it's not so easy because that's not how they build their houses. They build 2-bedroom houses. But there are more and more 3-bedroom houses being, and condos, I wouldn't say apartments, I would say condos, that are being built now. So yes and no, you have to look at it. The no part is you have to look at more recent construction, and if you do that, you can probably find a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, certainly at $800 a month.
And yes, because we happen to have a house that's 3 bedrooms and 2 baths for $800. But I think that's more like not the norm.
2-bedroom, 1-bath is the norm.
2 is better in Grace Hill, like that, if you want a nice one. Okay, next question. What is the job market like?
Well, I have a very straightforward answer. Forget it. You didn't hear me. Forget it.
Yeah,
You
you
ain't
can't
working
really,
here.
you can't work here.
Okay? You're either going to be on a pension or you're going to be working online.
Right.
You're not going to get, it's highly, highly, highly unlikely, not impossible, but it's highly unlikely that as an extranjero, you are going to be able to work because the jobs are preserved for people who are Costa Rican citizens.
Right. There are some of those teaching jobs, teach English, and there are some other things, like if you work for a company, like a U.S. company or something that has jobs here or something like that. But for the most part, I wouldn't suggest you just quit your job and come over to Costa Rica and think you're going to get a job, because probably not.
I would go on to number 11, and it says, what does the market look like for a 35 to 50-year-old, as far as work is concerned? Forget it. That's my answer.
Oh, I love this one. Where do most black expats live on the island? Tight-knit community or spread out over the island?
Well, my answer to that basically is that there are no expats living on the island. None of any sort or variety. No expats are living on the island. And the reason is because Costa Rica isn't an island. Surprise!
Right. It's a common misconception, though.
Yes.
That Costa Rica is an island, but it's actually a country.
Actually, Costa Rica is a country that is on an isthmus, if I can pronounce the word right, which I can't, which is the section of land that goes between 2 continents, North America and South America. So, that's why they call it Central America. That's where Costa Rica is. There is a tight-knit community. This community is composed of gringos, as the Costa Ricans call North Americans. You are gringo regardless of your ethnicity. There are concentrations of gringos in certain areas of Costa Rica. Certain towns in the Central Valley and at the beaches is where you will find the expats.
Yep. And I wanted to say a little bit about Costa Rica. Costa Rica means rich coast. And Costa Rica is a rugged rainforest, Central American country with coastlines on the Caribbean and the Pacific. It's between borders Nicaragua and Panama. The population of Costa Rica is about 4.9 million. It's the size of West Virginia if you wanted to compare it to a state in the U.S., and if you wanted to compare it to a country in Europe, it would be about the same size as Denmark. The largest city in Costa Rica is the capital city of San Jose, and there's about 334,000 people living in San Jose, but the San Jose metropolitan area encompasses about 2 million people. So about half the population of Costa Rica is in the San Jose Central Valley area. Let's see. And I think that's about all I wanted to say about that. There was another question about open mic, writers groups, entertainment, and cultural activities. And the thing that I would say about that is that I have heard it seems to me in a lot of the communities there are some small groups of people that get together, that writers groups and people who like to sew, and whatever your hobby is or your interest is, you can probably find some kind of a group in your area. You might want to stick with, in the beginning, with an expat group because you'll have a little more things in common probably in the beginning, and you'll be able to speak English, because the other any other group that you would join would probably just speak Spanish. So if you're not, if you don't know the language, it would probably be a little bit difficult to join the group. There are some entertainment and cultural events and activities, probably mainly in San Jose, and maybe some of the beach towns probably have more. That's about all I know about that question.
I would just add to that is, I would say that all these things are available, entertainment, cultural activities, writers groups, but the availability of these things is going to vary as to what community you're in, like she was talking about the beach. Cultural activities definitely are going to be centered in San Jose. If you want to go to a play or you want to go to a concert or something of that nature, you're going to find more of that in San Jose. However, and I haven't experienced this, so it's a speculation on my part, I think if you go to some of these secondary cities that have a academic community, maybe they have a college or something of that nature, and it's large enough where it draws a diverse population, you're going to find some cultural activities of interest in those communities. But you don't live there. I mean, unless you live there. I mean, if you're in Gracia, then there's no college here.
Right.
What we have here is we do have some cultural activities going on within the expat community. And in the greater community, there is a lot of interest in music in Gracia, from classical music to different kinds of folk music to different kinds of pop music. So Gracia is some place where you could find a diversity in musical interests. But if you want to go to a play, well, not so much. Okay.
You might be able to find some things like that in Escazú as well.
I would say Escazú, and I would also say Heredia, because Heredia has a university concentration. So it just depends. And really, if you think about it, it's not much different than the United States. I mean, if you go to a small town in the United States, what are you going to find? People. And, you're not necessarily going to find all that cultural interest.
Right.
So it's really not really any different here as far as those things are concerned, as far as variety.
Do you know of a dependable hairstylist who can cut and style my natural hair? My answer to that would be, it depends on where you live. Oh, this is another thing I wanted to point out, because I get a lot of people asking me about this, about the whole living situation. Since Costa Rica is a country, and things are spread out and the roads are not so great everywhere, it's not so easy to just get from one place to the next place. So it's really going to depend, like as far as your hairstyle goes, it's going to depend on where you choose to live. And if you choose to live, for instance, we live in Gracia and I have sister locks. There is only one certified sister locks consultant in the whole country. So, depending on where you live, if you have to come to where she lives, which is not too far from me, but not right in this town, it might almost be impossible to do. I mean, maybe not impossible, but you might have to come up to this area and get a hotel room for the night and spend the night and then go back on a long bus ride. So, but if you're in a city like San Jose, you probably won't have any problem. If you're down in Puerto Viejo, where there are a lot of black people down there, you probably won't have too much trouble with your hair there either, if it's natural hair at least. Any of the other areas, I don't really know what to tell you about that. You might have to end up doing your own hair. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to say. And that's for women. Anything to add?
Natural hair? I don't have any problem.
Barbers are easier, I think.
What? Okay, so we're talking about the best time to visit. If you are visiting for the first time, I would make a distinction, and that is, I would say, to come in the dry season. The dry season. And I'm saying that because in the dry season, it's easier to get around, and you'll likely have a chance to see more of the country. Or, if you're coming to do due diligence, not just to visit, then it probably doesn't make that much difference, because you're going to want to go places rain, shine, sleet, or snow, and we don't have sleet or snow here. We do have rain and shine. But, so it depends upon why you're coming, and, you know, if you're coming as a tourist, especially the first time, come in the dry season. A lot of people say, well, don't go in the low season, don't go in the rainy season because, oh, it's this and it's that. And, you know, to that I say, not so much. I mean, you can do a lot of things here when in the rainy season. It's just that you have to adjust to the rain. You go to New York to see a play and it's a blizzard outside. You put on different clothes, you know? So you know, that's an interesting that I would make.
Right. And I would say just about the same thing. Most people come during the dry season. Tourists come more so during the dry season, which is, I think, November, late November, maybe December, to like April, maybe mid-April. But you do have to remember that when you come in the dry season, the prices are higher. So if you want to come and visit and save money, it will be better to come in the rainy season. And the rainy season is different, you know, depending on where you are in Costa Rica. Which brings me to the next question is, how bad is the rainy season? And this happens to be rainy season now. You can see a little bit from our view. I don't know if you can see in the background there are some dark clouds there. So I think the rain is probably going to be coming in shortly. We had a little bit of a rain burst a little bit earlier today. And rainfall, as I mentioned earlier, is different depending on where you live in Costa Rica. If you want the least amount of rain, you probably would want to be in the Guanacaste area, which is north. I think it's hotter and drier there. Yeah, but depending on where you live. And the rainy season wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be in a way. I was prepared for it. We moved here in the rainy season, but the rainy season last year and starting this year was supposedly is not the typical rainy season. But I would take this rainy season over the rain that we had in San Francisco, where I lived for 40 years, somewhere along that line. I hated the rain there, and I don't really hate the rain here, maybe because it's warm or maybe just because I'm in Costa Rica. I don't know.
Well, I have to say that I was very disappointed in the rainy season because all the expats told me that, you know, every rainy season you have to build an ark. So I built an ark for the 2 cats and the 2 dogs and Devin and I, and it never even floated. So, you know, people, what?
Do we still have it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I threw it over the coffee grove back there. But at any rate, so yeah, it's wet, but you know, you adjust to the circumstances, as I said a little while ago. And usually there is a schedule, believe it or not. It's dry in the morning and wet in the afternoon at some point, but then sometimes Mother Nature will pull a trick on you and it'll rain in the morning and not in the afternoon, or it'll rain all day, or it won't rain at all.
Right.
So it's not really an ironclad schedule, but generally speaking, more or less, some of the time, dry in the morning, you go out, you do your stuff, if you're worried about getting wet, you come home in the afternoon, and that's how it goes.
Oh, and also, it rains more and longer as you get into the rainy season. So the rain in May and June is different and usually less than the rain that's in October and November, when you will probably be pretty tired of the rain. Unless you really like rain. And some people do.
Yeah.
And the next question was, snakes, bugs, and critters. Everybody worries about snakes, bugs, and critters. I don't like bugs and critters, but I'll let you start.
There be bugs here, but there be snakes here, but not many critters. Unless you live in the Costa Rican outback in the middle of nowhere, then you can find all kinds of critters, large, small, and unusual.
Big bugs are critters to me.
Oh, well, big
If you
bugs.
get after a certain size, you're a critter.
We do have big bugs here. We have moths that have a 6-foot wingspan.
No, we don't.
Well, she said big bugs.
Well, I didn't mean that.
Exaggerating, so I'm
Oh,
exaggerating.
okay, well, fine.
We don't have big bugs here. If you want big bugs, you know.
What big bugs go in the front of the house?
Yeah, I guess
Bigger
so.
bugs, smaller
I guess so.
bugs in the back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, but we do have them. I haven't seen a snake.
well, that was, you took the words away from me. I ain't seen a snake since I've been here, but the bugs are plentiful.
Yeah, they are. But you can get on a schedule with your house and get an exterminator and you can keep it down. We haven't really gone that route because we have 2 dogs and 2 adopted cats, and we don't want to do extermination and, exterminate our pets either.
Right.
So, but there is an exterminator that I heard about that uses
Non-toxic.
non-toxic, and I'm going to check.
Well, non-toxic to
To
us
the
and
animals,
pets.
not to the
Not
bugs.
necessarily to the insects.
Hopefully not to the insects.
Although we do understand when they do spray, the insects will crawl towards your house, and they get to a certain point, and they turn around and they go, you know what? This has turned into a bad neighborhood. We really could get out of here now. So it works. We don't always kill them. We just tell them to go away and they leave.
But I mean, if you're going to live here, you're going to have bugs. And I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it. You'll have them, but I don't like them, and I managed to live here. And
Then watch out for the spider when you're